Perhaps the first thing you notice walking through the door-handleless door is the smell of incense burning in the air. Although you're currently fine with it, you'd have expected others to notice. The smell could grow quite sickly. There is an amber light present throughout which gives the room a homely and inviting tone. There is a light sitting adjacent to an unmade bed buzzing away calmly. You look to your feet and notice, oh, this room needs a bit of a vacuum, as you kick a pile of dirty clothes to the side. The owner of this room is stressed, you assume. While there's a state of disorder present throughout, you notice that there is a definite structure to the way the room has been laid out. This room is very well lived in. You notice posters have been haphazardly blue-tacked to the slanted walls of the room. You look across and see a map of Scotland from the 17th century. Your eyes are suddenly drawn to DJ equipment poised directly under the map, in between some Back to the Future wall art.
Here, do you DJ light?
Well, not very well.
That wasn't the question.
Well, yeah, okay, I suppose I do.
Interesting.
What do you mean, interesting? What do you mean, interesting?
Well, I was just curious, you know.
During that little quip at the start, you might have felt involved with the story, you know, becoming part of it. And you also might have felt a sense of immersion. And you probably also felt that immersion broke as soon as I tried to act. But what exactly is immersion to begin with? Google describes immersion as a deep mental involvement in something, but I feel that's too vague for the purposes of this video. See, when I describe immersion, I mean to describe a sense of place, like evoking a sense of place, like you are entering that place. After all, immersion does mean to enter, to make you feel a part of the story or the conversation, and that is the context that we'll be talking about in today's video. I should quickly note that I'm aware that immersion isn't limited to evoking a sense of place. For instance, you could be fully immersed in a recipe book or with a musical instrument. It's just that for the context of this video, I'm describing immersion as feeling like you're somewhere else. I'm going off on a little tangent in order to help explain immersion further with the context of video games. Here's my 2011 3DS. It could be described as a device where its primary objective is to help you feel more immersed in the game worlds you're experiencing. However, this is where it falls a little bit flat for me. In the 7 years that I've owned this, I have rarely played it, I have to say. Of course I played it when I first got it, but now I barely touch the thing. There's a number of reasons for this, namely because when I got it, 10-year-old me simply couldn't afford the price of 3DS games when they came out. Even when I did get it, it didn't take much time for me to realise that the 3D feature wasn't all it was cracked up to be. Don't get me wrong, I knew what I was getting into when I got it. My mum took me to Game Station and we tried a demo version and we had to queue up for it and wait for it, and I saw the 3D feature and I was blown back. I was completely amazed. And I'm not saying the feature was entirely a gimmick. When I brought the thing home, when I finally got it for my 10th birthday, I looked at it and went, hey, this is really cool. The 3D felt not real, but there was certainly a good sense of depth there. However, the kind of novelty wore off. I was more intrigued by the gimmick rather than the actual feature itself. I didn't realise that I wasn't feeling more immersed, and my excitement wasn't for the feeling of immersion, it was for the feeling of new technology, and I simply mistook it for that. If Nintendo sold this 3DS as a DS with a whiff with a of 3D, then it probably wouldn't sell very well. However, they sold it as this new, amazing, fully immersive game machine thing, and that's what drove the numbers, that's what got people buying it. In actuality, they never stated it would be fully immersive, and nobody expected it to be fully immersive. However, they seriously pushed that the 3D would enhance the games developed for the console. Instead, what most people got was eye strain, headaches, and warning messages popping up left, right and centre telling you about the risks of developing eye strain and headaches. Clearly, the focus was placed onto the 3D feature itself as opposed to the games. The only novelty of the 3D feature was the very fact that the feature existed. Whereas with something like headset VR, I don't have headset VR because, you know, man's broke, but if mans did have headset VR, this is probably what you would see of me. God, God's sake. What I'm trying to get at is that it encapsulates your entire vision, whereas something like the 3DS, you've got to hold it like a fixed distance away from you, 65 centimeters away from your face, on a 400 by 240 screen, and yet it genuinely was that low res. With headset VR, you can move your head and walk around. Well, I can't, because this is a beanie. Clearly, in terms of the technology alone, headset VR far exceeds what the 3DS is capable of. The two technologies are in no way comparable, and your delivery is fine, but the actual content is off. That's also another big immersion breaker. For instance, if we take a game like Job Simulator for like VR headsets, an amazing game, you don't move about much and you sit down, you feel completely immersed in the game world, you got your headset on, you're raring to go. However, if we take a buggy game, I don't actually know of any buggy games for VR, there's plenty of them no doubt, considering Unity's a thing. That's not dissing Unity, I'm just saying that it's a very open platform. Anyway, if the game is buggy or unpolished or otherwise just unfinished, it'll be a lot more obvious if your method of delivery is very clear and very crisp. If you're very direct with what you're saying, but what you're saying has no meaning or has no kind of value, then the immersion will be broken. There needs to be a balance. If we take the 3DS, and recently I just bought Animal Crossing, in fact I bought it last night because it's not on a sale, they got this Nintendo Select thing and it was like $15.99. I'm like, okay, so I downloaded that and it only took an hour to install, and I went back and played it and I'm hooked. I'm incredibly hooked, and loads of people are hooked on Animal Crossing. It's an amazing game with an engaging story. Here's another example that I want to use to help clarify that you need a very good basis for a story, and you need a very good fleshed out story and easy to understand story where method of delivery is as important as the actual content itself. George Orwell's 1984, an incredible book about a dystopian London, and despite this there's a portion of text midway through the story describing the history of Oceania as the main character, Winston, reads from a textbook. This goes on for 17 pages. 17 pages of a fictional dry modern studies lesson. Without spoiling the book, I will say that I do believe this was included in order to achieve a certain effect. However, even though I am not the fastest or most dedicated of readers, it still took me a good week or two to finish those pages fully and take in the information. For me, this was the worst part of the story by far. I was completely taken out of the story's world and didn't want to touch it again. I eventually went back to finish it, mostly because I had to for an English assignment, and thoroughly enjoyed the ending. It showed me that if you take someone out of your story, even on purpose, it can completely discourage them from wanting to read into it further or explore it further. So, with this considered, taking someone out can ruin your immersion and you need a good method of delivery. How can we achieve this effect of being in the story, of being immersed? Focus on the story. Describe everything in great detail but in relatively easy to understand language. When I mean relatively easy to understand, I don't mean like, ooh, the red flower, the green pineapple. I mean like, say you're going on holiday and you happen to find some flowers and you go to your friend and say, hey, I saw some great gamboge coloured flowers. They'd be really confused, because gamboge isn't a word that most people know, and okay, there has to be a limit. You have to try and use a better set of vocabulary. You can't keep calling everything purple and blue, and you can use words like lilac and things like that, but what I'm saying without going on too much of a tangent is don't be too obscure. Use comfortable language. This language doesn't also have to be kind of a linguistic verbal language, but could be in the language of art and design. Take abstract art. That piece of abstract art might be nice or visually impressive to look at. Take exhibit A. You might not feel connected to it, because abstract art, there's no clear story. There might be a lot of other meaning outside of the context of the painting itself, but if the painting doesn't carry that much meaning other than maybe technique used, I'm just using abstract art as an example again, but then you might not feel that much of a kind of relation to the image. So yeah, focus on the story and make it clear. Boo! Sorry about that. Another way to Another way to make your victims, I'll put the light up there, but it's my phone and it's really bright. Another way to make your victims feel more immersed is by personalising what you're doing. Horror games do this very well, some horror games do this very well. Then maybe take your name off your Steam account or off of your computer or off of your game device or whatever you're doing, off your Xbox, off your 3DS, and they'll maybe include it in dialogue or maybe have some text-to-speech thing running so you can hear your name or see your name pop up in places, and that just psychologically messes with you, but it's getting to you because it's personal. Yeah, I'm even doing it now. I'm talking to a camera lens, but I'm speaking to you. I'm speaking in the second person. That is a form of personalization, even though it's a low form of personalization. You're effectively creating that kind of relativity that I'm connected to you. This is where like abstract art is missing that. There's no personalization again, so you do need to focus on the story and grasp it, as I said earlier, but the story needs to be tailored to the person that's reading it, or at least allow the person that's reading it to feel somehow connected or somehow involved. So focusing on a good, comfortable, easy to understand story, and also focusing on making it kind of relative, personal, good communication going. That would be quite a good way to put it. That's better, it's not as in your eyes or scary or, you know, white. Don't take that out of context, you cheeky little shits. So to conclude and answer the question of what is immersion, immersion literally means to enter, as I said earlier, to become, to be involved, to enter into that involvement. Anything that helps you enter into the kind of story or the conversation will in turn make you feel more immersed. And one more way you can feel immersed is by hitting that subscribe button and pressing like and leaving a comment saying how good I am, because I'm in need of constant validation. And you can check out my socials below because you can tell me how good I am, and that'll make me feel really good, and then you get a cookie in the mail, I promise. I mean, I think, perhaps. I don't know. Do you feel immersed yet? Hope you do, because that cookie ain't coming and I'm still lonely, so yeah. In all seriousness, thanks for watching. I'm going to try and upload a bit more. I know I always say that, like I have always said that, but I'm kind of doing a new schedule idea where I've created this video, but I'm not going to upload it until I have the script ready for the next video and so on, so I'm always kind of have something there, something to keep me motivated, something to keep me going, you know. But yeah, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.